So I think that there's a lot of topics that contribute to how fast you can actually learn a character, but the two that I want to focus on in particular here today are fundamentals and resources and how you allocate those resources. Keep in mind, there's a lot of other things that are going to be at play here. Your archetype, whether you're used to playing that archetype, zoner, rushdown, whatever it may be, input type, if you're used to playing charge characters, if you're used to playing motion characters, that's going to play a part in this. But today, let's just talk about fundamentals and resources to start. When I say fundamentals, I'm talking about things like spacing, things like anti-airing, fireball game, your execution, your neutral, and overall just how much you understand fighting games as a genre and how much of that knowledge you're able to put into your game. If your fireballs are great, if your spacing is great, if you have a great concept of neutral, chances are you're going to pick up a character and be a little bit ahead of everybody else who's also trying to learn that character. I think a great example of this is Punk, right? Punk plays every character under the sun in Street Fighter V, and he's able to win tournaments or make top 8 at least almost every single time. It's just because his whiff punishing, his neutral game, his anti-airs, everything is always on point. No matter what character you put him on, he's going to have a great grasp of what he needs to do to win. However, with me, as you guys saw when I started playing Cammy, my ground game is pretty decent. I play Karen, she's very neutral based, and her ground game is a very big part of her plan. But Cammy had a DP. Cammy has great anti-airs, and that's where we started to see my fundamentals falter. We started to see what I needed to work on and what I've been trying to work on. And you'll probably notice in most games that I play, in most new games that I play, and most new characters that I pick up, I sort of play them a little bit similarly at first, right? I play a very grounded game. Even if they have an air approach like Cammy's dive kick, Seth's dive kick, I don't use it very much because the first character I played was Karen, and her ground game is very good, so that's what I'm used to. And then I'll start slowly adding in those air approaches and those things that newer characters that I'm playing have. That fundamental ground game never leaves me. That fundamental sense of what I know doesn't leave me, and I use that to my advantage when I'm trying to learn a character. I think something that I really didn't understand when I was trying to switch between characters was that things carry over. It's not like you have to start a clean slate every time. You can take things from one character and bring them to the next, and it helps. That's why when you see people who play Shotos, they can play all the Shotos usually, right? To some extent. They can play Ryu, they can play Ken, Akuma, and some of them can play Sagat. Even though they're all a little bit different, they sort of have the same fundamental game plan, just with some extra tools, right? If you're a Ryu player and you pick up Akuma, you have a ton of extra tools, but you can play Akuma how you play Ryu if you really wanted to. I think this is the same reason why a lot of people recommend that new players play Ryu and Ken, the well-rounded characters, because you'll learn the fundamental game, you'll learn the fireball game, you'll learn the anti-airs, how to DP anti-air. You'll learn a bunch of things that you'll need to know on other characters as well, and eventually you'll move on from Ryu and Ken onto other characters that you're interested at some point, most likely. Me, however, I didn't want to play Ryu or Ken when I started, so that's why you see me struggling to anti-air with DP sometimes when I'm playing Cammy, because I never had one until now. You'll probably see me struggling a little bit with DP motion in general because Karen doesn't have one, and I never had to do one for the past year and a half that I've been playing fighting games. If you see me doing 2H or something like that, it's because that's my fundamentals. That's what's ingrained in me. Karen's 2H is her anti-air, and 2H is a good anti-air in most other games that I play. But knowing how to DP on reaction is such a very important skill that I'm very much behind on and need to catch up on. Another thing you'll see is overlapping inputs with me. So if you see me try and do what should have been a DP but super comes out, it's because I got an overlapping input and my DP motion wasn't as crisp as it should have been. So yeah, to sum up the fundamentals, I think as long as you know how to anti-air, you know your spacing, you know how to whiff punish, and you get the concept of blocking something and then punishing it, you already have a little bit of a head start on everybody else who might be learning that character with you. Let's move on to resources. Now what I mean by resources is all of the YouTube guides you see, all of the Reddit posts, all of the Google documents you see on your character, and all the Discord channels. Now I know a lot of players who started in the arcades, they always say that these resources weren't available when they were playing, right? Because it wasn't. The internet wasn't a big thing when they were playing. But now, as a new player, you do have access to those resources and you need to use them. There's only so much you can figure out on your own. And I understand that discovery phase. I understand playing a new character, getting on, and a new game and wanting to figure everything out by yourself. But at some point, it's more efficient for you to find a video on your character, to find some resources on your character, and then use that to supplement your discovery, right? I'm not saying you have to watch a YouTube video and follow that word for word. You can still keep it fun while using resources to supplement your learning. This not only accelerates your learning, but makes sure that you are learning in the correct way, right? You're not abusing something that's highly negative against a bot and then going into a game and getting punished and then not realizing why you're getting punished or beat up. Now, that's not to say there's one correct way to learn Street Fighter. There's not one correct way to play any fighting game, but it just helps you to stay on the right track. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm always been using my resources efficiently, right? This is something that I've realized when I started learning Colleen, because Nephew made a very good Colleen guide that I watched, and I watched it all the way through. Usually when I watch guides on whether it be characters in Street Fighter, characters in any game, or, League of Legends champion, I'll try and get the gist of it and then figure it out myself. Then I sort of realized when I watched that Colleen video, there are so many nuanced things that would take me so long to figure out myself that I can just listen to Nephew tell me about it, and then I implement it into my game, and that's that, right? It saves so much time. It makes sure that you're on the right track and that you know why you're doing what you're doing. There's so many resources out there for getting better as fast as possible. In the end, it's up to you to allocate those resources and use them efficiently in your game. If you enjoyed today's video or any of the videos that you've seen here in the past, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.